Hey folks, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Please take a second to share this if you get a chance. So yeah, this probably won't be a very funny episode. Uh, if I look tired, it's because I am emotionally fucking tired by this. So hilariously, I decided to try and take the first longer sabbatical I think in my career. I'm taking about 4 weeks to regroup and deal with some family stuff and everything. And that's when this ruling comes down from the High Court in Britain saying that Julian Assange should be extradited to the United States. And so I had to do this video because it's tough to process these things. It's so fucking disgusting. It's so fucking pathetic and corrupt and repulsive and morally bankrupt on every level imaginable. It truly is just waving the flag of a fascist state. And this goes not just for Britain that made this decision, but also for the United States that could decide to have Assange released right now and instead is continuing to push for his extradition to a country he is not from, nor has ever operated from, so that they can torture him for the rest of his life. I mean, if there, as my friend the journalist Dan Cohen said, if there's an example of a modern day crucifixion, this is it. And I am not a religious person, but I think if you could get a closer example to someone bringing truth and being nailed to a fucking cross, this would be it. It's tough to overstate how fucking repulsive and disgusting this is. I'm going to give you some of the details in a moment, but as I'm sure all of you know, this has been going on for years. Julian has been imprisoned, not just at Belmarsh Prison, the harshest prison in London, for several years, but also 7 years in basically a single room. Oh yeah, sorry about the lighting. That doesn't, when you see the light change on my forehead, that doesn't mean I just got an idea or something, or angels are shining down. It means that there's some sort of electricity problem in my lighting, and I don't feel like dealing with it. But anyway, he spent 7 years basically in a single room in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, trying to escape exactly what he's now going through, trying to escape being persecuted for revealing the truth about the U.S. empire and many other governments around the world. Even his own government, the fucking Australian government, pathetic pieces of corrupt shit, are not standing up for him, with the exception of just a couple of politicians here or there. And so this ruling is just so horrific. It's not the end of this fight. I want you to know that. But it is a huge step forward, huge step in the positive direction for the villains, for those who run these empires, who exploit and oppress millions, if not billions, around the world, who commit the war crimes that Assange and WikiLeaks helped reveal. And it's tough for me to really decide who I'm most disgusted with. You know, you have the corrupt British courts, but that doesn't surprise me or upset me that much, because, you know, these are corrupt white supremacists in policy, at least, courts that have operated for hundreds of years. You have the corrupt U.S. court system that is the reason that we know that if Assange were to come here, he would not get a fair trial. We know that for a certainty. I had someone the other day who supports Assange getting his freedom, say to me, well, how do you know, maybe he would. Can we hope for a fair trial in the US? Can we at least do that? The answer is no. The answer is that there is no fucking chance in hell that he would get a fair trial in the US. He would be sent to the exact same courthouse, the exact same judge as other people who have been prosecuted under the Espionage Act in the United States in recent years, including people such as John Kiriakou, who has spoken endlessly, tirelessly on this. John Kiriakou, former CIA officer, who is the only person to ever serve time in prison for the CIA's incredibly illegal, incredibly against the Geneva Conventions torture program. John Kiriakou, why did he serve that time? Not for torturing anyone. He never did torture anyone. He served that time for revealing the CIA's torture program. And he was taken to this courthouse, and I can't remember the name of the judge, but she basically reserves all of these high-level Espionage Act cases for herself to deal with, and does not allow in any evidence. It's the same place Snowden would go if he were here, if he were to be extradited to the United States. It's where Chelsea Manning would have gone if she were not in a military trial. And this judge does not allow in any evidence that could be used to defend these people, could be used in any defense. John Kiriakou and his lawyers put forward 70 witnesses, or over 70, or something like that, that they wanted to have on the stand to explain why Kiriakou did what he did, why he revealed the CIA's torture program, why it was imperative for the American people and for Kiriakou and for truth and for justice for him to reveal that that torture program was going on. And she did not allow any of those witnesses. This is the norm. And Kiriakou ended up serving only 2 years because he took a plea deal. He had to basically say that he had committed egregious, traitorous crimes against the United States, and then he was given 2 years for that plea deal. He had to sign every fucking level of disgusting, admission of guilt in order to get that plea deal. And when she was, approving the plea deal, which she kind of had to, she said, if it were up to me, I'd give you 100 years. Meaning she hated that he'd taken a plea deal and that she couldn't lock him up for 100 years for revealing the CIA's torture program. That's the type of trial Julian Assange would get. So yes, do we know 100% he would get an unfair trial in the United States? The answer is yes. The answer is if Julian Assange is extradited to the United States, he will be locked up for fucking ever. Like, not just locked up, but abused, tortured, all of it. So I want to read you the details of where this stands now. It's not quite over, but it's not good. So Kevin Gosztola is a great journalist. He's been covering the Assange trial since the beginning and doing it very well. And here is his article on put up today on what's going on again with Assange. And let's see here. He says Assange plans to appeal High Court decision backing the extradition to the United States. The High Court of Justice, nice name, fuckwads. The High Court of Justice was satisfied with diplomatic assurances offered by the U.S. government related to how Assange would be treated in jail or prison, and they stated there is no reason why this court should not accept the assurances as meaning what they say. Now, to give you that background, because some of you may not have been following this play-by-play, is that the lower court that decided that Assange could not be extradited only decided that because they said he's such a risk for committing suicide, and the United States prison system is such a uniquely torturous prison system that he should not be extradited because he may kill himself. And that was the only reason she said don't extradite that judge. That was the only reason. she agreed with every other point that the U.S. government had made in the case against Assange. Didn't disagree with any of it, was on their side for all of it. Only said don't extradite him because, he's very depressed. He has suicidal tendencies, and he may commit suicide if he's extradited to the United States. That was the only reason she said don't extradite. So this latest hearing that this high court, the UK's Supreme Court, if you will, was hearing, the latest hearing they were listening to, had only to do with basically, was he really under risk of suicide if he went to the U.S.? And in order to deal with that, the U.S. government, which, keep in mind, Biden could stop this all right now. Biden, at the fucking flick of a wrist or a phone call, could end the appeal and it'd be over. So anyone who thinks that, this was going on before Biden, it's not Biden's fault, it's not the Democrats' fault, no, fuck you. It is fucking their fault. They are doing it right now. The persecution started under Obama. Obama did not decide to actually prosecute, bring charges against Assange. However, they were persecuting him. And then Trump with Pompeo fucking despises Assange. And, Trump may as well, but really Pompeo was the big push. And obviously Trump allowed it. Trump could have stopped it at any moment, but Trump was like, yeah, go ahead, fucking kill the guy. They're the ones who brought the charges. And now Biden is continuing it. So anybody who thinks this isn't Biden's fucking fault, no, now this is Biden's fault. Okay? Biden administration, Biden may not know where he is, but that means his advisors, whoever the fuck is making these decisions, it's them. And they could end it right now. But they're not going to. So this latest hearing that this high court has just decided on only had to do with basically the assurances by the U.S. government saying, we're going to treat him great. Oh my goodness, we are going to treat Julian Assange so wonderfully. We're going to take care of him. We're going to give him all this time in the daylight. He's going to have windows with a view. We're going to bring him 3-course meals with fucking filet mignon and fucking sorbet as a palate cleanser and fine wines. And it'll be wonderful. His time in U.S. prison will be wonderful. Furthermore, he may not even be convicted. I don't know why I'm giving them a British accent, which is kind of really ruining what I'm talking about here. But they were basically saying, it's going to be fine. We're going to treat him great. He's going to have a wonderful stay in prison. Which, even people that don't give a flying fuck about Assange, how many people believe that? How many people believe time in U.S. prison is going to be wonderful? It's fucking the highest level of awful U.S. prisons. Highest security. Do you really think Assange is going to be treated great? Think it's going to be wonderful? Yeah? Do you? Does anyone believe that? So that's what this hearing was. It was basically the U.S. government giving those assurances to the U.S., to the U.K. government and the High Court, and saying, we're going to treat them great. And so this High Court decision was almost exclusively about the High Court saying, yes, we believe you. As I just read a quote from them, there's no reason to believe the U.S. government would not treat Assange wonderfully. Of course, that is simply not true. And anyone with half a brain cell knows that. So they just decided just now to allow his extradition because they are satisfied with the assurances. Here's another quote from the High Court. There is no basis for assuming that the USA has not given the assurances in good faith. There's no reason to believe the U.S. government would lie to us. Name one time the U.S. government has lied to anyone. Name one time. Come on, one time. More significantly, continuing from Kevin Gastola's article, the High Court remitted the case back. Now, this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of what more this says than just Assange will be extradited, because it is more complicated than that. The High Court remitted the case back to the district court and instructed the district judge at that level to send the request to the Secretary of State in the Home Department for extradition. Now, that is the person who actually has to sign the extradite Julian Assange paperwork. So this guy, I'm assuming it's a man, might not be. So I'll say this person, a Secretary of State in the Home Department for extradition will make this decision. However, the Home Department previously allowed the extradition request to be considered by the district court, meaning they've already shown that they're supporting this process of extraditing Assange. To make matters even more disgusting, did you think this was disgusting enough? No, let's make it a little more disgusting. This is nothing. This is nothing. To make it even more disgusting, the High Court decision today came on Human Rights Day. That's right, folks. A day marked by countries in the United Nations, and the decision was immediately condemned by press freedom and human rights groups and various other civil society organizations throughout the world. Assange is detained at Her Majesty's Prison Belmarsh in London, a high-security prison where he has been held since he was expelled from the Ecuadorian embassy. On April 11, 2019, he faces 18 charges, 17 of which are under the Espionage Act, which is hilarious because the Espionage Act is literally about committing treason against the United States, meaning you kind of got to be a U.S. citizen, right? You can't commit treason against a country you're not a part of. Like, that doesn't make... It's illogical from the moment you start the proceedings. It's fucking stupid and pathetic and corrupt and bullshit. And this gets to the fact that fucking... In a fascist system, in a totalitarian, morally bankrupt, morally inverted universe of a fascist system like the U.S. government right now, whatever they want to be legal is legal. If they want to declare that a non-U.S. citizen who's never operated from the United States is treasonous, is committing treason against the United States, then they just do that. You have to remember, everything Hitler did in Germany during World War II was legal by German law. Do you get it? When you have that much power in a government, you simply make legal whatever you want to make legal. So the U.S. government is now incredibly fucking morally bankrupt, wrong, disgusting, villainous, all of it. But they've made it legal. They've made their behavior legal. And they've made Assange's behavior, meaning revealing their war crimes, illegal. Those laws don't mean anything. Please speak up if there's one of you who thinks that it meant something, that all of Hitler's behavior was legal by German law. Do you think that really matters? Or do you think that means German law was flyingly fucked at that time? Because that's now what we're facing, is something quite similar, where you have the people that should be heralded as heroes in our society are now called villains under U.S. law. And another example of this, which will be our tiny sliver of good news in this episode, another example of this, this first part is not good news, but another example of this is Stephen Donziger, right? Lawyer, won the largest, you've heard me talk about it many times, won the largest largest damages against a big oil company ever, $9.5 billion. Chevron was supposed to pay to the Ecuadorian indigenous people that had had their lives destroyed, thousands killed by their toxic dumping. And he won a case. He won it in court. And Chevron lost. That's it. That's what he's guilty of. And not only has Chevron never paid, but they then found, hired, recruited, lobbied prosecutors, judges in the United States to do their bidding, as well as many in the media. Chevron's on the board of New York Times, which is why New York Times never covered it, to do their bidding and put Donziger in jail. So that's not the good news. The good news is that yesterday, so Donziger was put in jail for 6 months for beating Chevron in court. Literally, that's what he's fucking guilty of. 6 months in prison. But yesterday, the prison, not our state prosecutors, not Biden administration, don't give them any credit for this, but the prison decided to allow Donziger to serve the rest of his time, which is like 2/3 of his time is left, in under house arrest. So he is, I think as of today, he's back home under house arrest, which tiny little fraction of good news that we've gotten over the past 2 days. But that's another example of how what Donziger did is now called illegal. Beating Chevron in court, beating a big oil company in court is now illegal. And making it so that they should be forced to pay billions of dollars to those they have killed. Or the families of those they have killed. I don't think they're paying it to those they have killed. I think it's a little late for them. But Donziger now home. So if you're looking for that shred of good news in this episode, you can walk away with that one. But here's a little more about what's going on. From Kevin Gastola's article, Assange's attorneys at Bernberg Pierce indicated their appeal to the Supreme Court in the UK would relate to the question of the assurances. Appeals on other important questions, including questions of free speech and on the political motivation of the U.S. extradition request, have yet to be considered by an appeal court. So, and then he says they will likely be considered after an appeal of this decision. So you have the appeal of this decision about the assurances the U.S. government gave, the laughable, hilarious assurances that Assange is going to be treated wonderfully. They're going to massage his feet every evening at 5 p.m. on the dot. You know, like get a foot massage. They're going to give him a little mani-pedi every day. Oh, my goodness. It's going to be so delightful for him in U.S. prisons. So they're going to appeal that decision. Then following that, assuming that does not go their way, they're going to appeal the other decisions. So something I didn't mention before, I told you how in the last trial, I guess, of Assange before the High Court, the judge bought all of the bullshit the U.S. government was spraying, except for the fact that Assange would be harmed and might kill himself in U.S. prison. What she bought through all that was, it turned out, completely false. Oh my God, shocker! Are you floored? The star witness that the U.S. put forward, Siggy Thorgerson, or if I'm pronouncing that even in the realm of correct, was their star witness, saying that Assange had encouraged him to hack the Icelandic politicians and all these accusations from Siggy, the hacker, who is a actual registered pedophile, convicted pedophile. He came forward or eventually did an interview after the fact, after that trial, saying he made it up, saying he did it he's a diagnosed sociopath, and he made it up because it got him out from under the thumb of the FBI. The FBI basically said, we're going to lock you up unless you testify for the U.S. against Assange. He said, sure, I don't give a shit. I'm a sociopath. But then later in a well-known interview, he said it wasn't true and that he made it up to appease the FBI and the U.S. government. So that has come out since the trial, meaning that refutes, that fucking shreds, I don't know, 80%, 90% of everything the U.S. said against Assange. Like, the vast majority of what the U.S. was saying is now shredded by a completely false witness. They knew he was false at the get-go, but he hadn't admitted it publicly until this interview. So all of that's happened since that court did that ruling, and yet the British High Court chose not to think about any of that. But to continue in the article, this decision marks a disastrous turning point for journalists and journalism around the world, is a quote from Rebecca Vincent, the Reporters Without Borders, Director of International Campaigns. Quote, it falls on the very day when we should celebrate the presentation of the Nobel Peace Prize to two journalists and urge states to respect their commitments to press freedom, which they have just reaffirmed at the Summit for Democracy organized by the United States. We call on the U.S. government to truly lead by example and to close this case now, before it does any more damage. Julian Assange should be released immediately, and steps should be taken so that no other journalist, editor, or source can be targeted in this way. Another thing to point out here is that even a lot of the organizations that have been slow to defend Julian Assange, very slow, pathetically slow, have come forward and now said he needs to be freed, including Amnesty International, has said Julian Assange needs to be freed immediately. There's so many of the biggest organizations, the Nobel Group. Assange has been multiple times been nominated to Nobel Prizes. Reporters Without Borders. There's so many organizations, some of them very slow to defend Assange, have now said he needs to be released. And it's just, like I said, it's tough to even decide who is the most disgusting, repulsive, what group, organization in this situation. Is so fucking disgusting, repulsive. Just it is a inverted moral universe. Up is down, right is left. Those who should be heroes are in prison. Those who should be in prison, like the war criminals that Julian Assange revealed, like war criminals like Obama and Biden and Trump and Pompeo and Dick Cheney and George Bush. They receive awards. They receive necklaces, not necklaces, but medals. Joe Biden presented the Medal of Liberty? The Medal of Liberty to George W. Bush. You can go watch the video today of just a couple years ago. Joe Biden putting the Medal of Liberty around George W. Bush's fucking throat. Go watch it. See how it makes you feel. See if that's what you feel is justice. We have in the United States now a criminal justice system. It's not a criminal justice system. It is a criminal justice system. And so, as I said, it's tough to say who I'm most repulsed by in this whole thing, like which group, which entity. And I think it might be the U.S. media, the mainstream media. So many of them have sat and watched as a journalist, a publisher who's never gotten anything wrong, has never published a goddamn wrong thing. They've sat and watched as he's been tortured, rotting in prison, been crucified. They've sat and watched and did fucking nothing. Nothing. The closest you can get is maybe one report. I remember Rachel Maddow did one report, which I made fun of at the time. One report where she said, look, Assange is disgusting. He's this awful person who wanted to get Trump elected, which is a lie, by the way. Awful, disgusting human being. But bringing the Trump administration, bringing espionage charges against him is wrong. She did one little report like that. That was it. That was the totality of MSNBC and Rachel Maddow defending Assange. And that doesn't count, okay? I don't count that as you fucking standing up against this. If they wanted to, the U.S. media can manufacture consent for just about any goddamn thing they want to. Okay? And if they wanted to, they could manufacture consent to have Julian Assange freed today if they wanted to. They could do report after report after report about how disgusting this is, about how to fucking stop this shit. And they don't. Because they are fucking paid puppets of a corporate oligarchy that is run wild, that is out of fucking control. And this is just another step towards a dark dystopian fucking hellhole. And this is honestly the closest thing I've ever seen to a modern day crucifixion of an individual. And if the U.S. has their way, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. Even if he lives to 100, he will be in prison for that time. And I don't know what the UK's game plan is. I don't know if maybe the higher ups in the UK think that they can kind of dodge ever truly extraditing Assange and instead just make this process take fucking 5 more years, 10 more years. And they can basically say, hey, we tortured him like you wanted. He's been in captivity for 20 years now, a third of his life. I think we did you well. Maybe that's their goal. Or maybe their goal is to actually have him extradited one day and for the UK to say, hey, we have no sovereignty whatsoever. The US makes our decisions. Maybe that's where they're headed. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I have about that. Oh yeah, Tony Clifton, thank you. Great name, by the way. I forgot to mention that if he were extradited to the U.S., he would be extradited to the only country in the world that has now clearly been revealed to have had a plot to kill him, to murder him. He'd literally be extradited to his murderers. They'd be sending him into the hands of his murderers. Because we now know that Mike Pompeo, when he was at the CIA, along with others at the CIA, along with Sheldon Adelson, along with many others, at the highest level had plans to kill Assange. And they didn't go through with the kill plans, but they went through with a fuck ton of other stuff. They went through with their plans to surveil everything about him, including conversations with his lawyers, which are protected by law, supposed to be protected by law. They surveilled and watched all of that. Everyone who went into that embassy to meet with him, they mimicked their cell phones so they could watch all of their cell phone communications. They stole information off their laptops. They literally stole dirty diapers out of the garbage to try and find out whether the children that were visiting Assange were his. And they were his. He is now announced, along with his partner, Stella Morris. But we now know from 30 different witnesses, 30, not witnesses, sources, 30 high-level sources have said the U.S. government had plans at the highest level to kill Assange, to murder him, a journalist. And now the UK wants to extradite him into the hands of his murderers. Sit and ponder that for a minute. Sit and think about that. Holly has another great point, which is Amy Goodman in Democracy Now!, who used to be big Assange supporters. She used to have Assange on regularly. She used to do events with Assange, used to report on WikiLeaks information all the time. She has now basically gone to almost not talking about him, which is, again, pathetic on such a high level. Disgusting, soul-sucking. She has sold her soul, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's money. It could be money, but whatever. I thank you guys for joining me here. We've got to keep fighting back, as we saw what fighting back can do. It's possible that the endless activism around Donziger helped pressure the prison to get him released on house arrest. I don't know that for certain, but it's quite possible. We know with Chelsea Manning, without the endless and long-term push to save Chelsea Manning, she would not have been released by Obama, which Obama deserves no credit because he also oversaw the persecution of her, the imprisonment of her, the torture of her. So don't give Obama a high five, but without endless activism, she would not be free right now. She would continue to be tortured in prison. So these things do work, but it takes a long time. It's a marathon, and we can't give up. So I thank you all for joining me today, and I hope you will take a second to share this. I don't think I've seen any donations because I didn't mention at the top, but if you donated on the super chat, those donations go to people who are struggling, a solidarity fund, which has helped hundreds of people, I'm proud to say. And if that's you, you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com. That's common censored with an ED at the end at protonmail.com. We're not talking about tons of money. We try and get money to everyone, but it's usually $50 or so. It's not a ton of money, but it helps some people out immensely. So thank you guys for any donations. If you're not watching this live, you can also donate on Venmo at Lee Camp. All those donations go to people who are struggling, who need help out there. Thank you, Bert, for the donation. And thank you for JT Films for the donation. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm taking a bit of a hiatus. Redacted Tonight still goes on. It's hosted by Naomi Caravani until January. So I hope you enjoy that. You can get it at portable.tv. And yeah, actually, I think I'll be hosting, though, the holiday episodes. So that'll be soon. And I'll be back hosting the regular Redacted in January. But as you can see with this video, content will still be coming here and there. We just did another episode of Common Censored, the podcast. So I'll be doing another episode of Government Secrets with Graham Elwood soon, probably Monday. And yeah, so there's still content coming out. I haven't stopped everything, but I've just taken a bit of a break for family stuff. And I will be back full force soon enough. Keep fighting for Assange. Keep fighting against these fucking pathetic, sick as shit, sociopathic fucking amoebas eating the diseased flesh of a dying nation. Keep protesting against them. The bacterium on the carcass of the American empire. This is just some sick, twisted shit that they're involved in. You don't need to know anything else about them. If they don't support Assange, if they haven't mentioned Assange, then they are pathetic pieces of garbage. That goes for all your media. That goes for fucking all your politicians. If they're not in defense of Assange, then you know they are worthless human beings. Corrupt, sociopathic pieces of garbage. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Keep fighting, everyone.